So, hi y'all. My name is Mike Ricketson, and I was given the honor, I guess, of analyzing Death of Captain Marvel. Now, I'll be 49 in a couple of months, and I actually bought this graphic novel when I was a teenager, way back in the 80s. Um, so I haven't read it for several decades now, so that's a long time. But our esteemed professor Mann let me do it, even though I have read it before, but it's been a long time. And he was right. It's a very sad story. Not something you expect a superhero to die, especially to die from a disease. I mean, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but he dies of natural causes. Uh, Obviously, it's his death, and this is the story of his death. But anyway, um, creative team. It's by Jim Starlin. Um, it's colored by Steve Oliff, lettered by James Novak, edited by Al Milgram, and the editor in chief is Jim Shooter. And obviously, it was published by Marvel Comic Group. It was published. This is the third printing. It was published in 1982. It's 62 pages long, and so I'm going to kind of hold it up because just keep holding it up, hide my face. So anyway, some little bit of interesting information I found. Now, Captain Marvel first appeared in Marvel Comics, Marvel Superheroes number 12 in December of 1967. That was the year before I was born. So he's been around a lot longer than that. I got this information from Wikipedia. From 1940 to 1953, Fawcett Comics published comics featuring their popular character, Captain Marvel, and thus they held the trademark name for Captain Marvel. Now, Fawcett ceased publishing the comic in 1953 due to a 1951 copyright infringement suit from DC Comics, and their trademark lapsed. So Marvel took advantage of that, and they debuted Captain Marvel in 1967, and they quickly trademarked the name. Marvel wasn't the first company to try to capitalize on that. In 1966, a small publisher named MF Enterprises released a short-lived Captain Marvel series. So anyway, that was taken from Wikipedia, and it is a true graphic novel, at least by the standards that we studied in class. It's a story on its own, and it's the death of Captain Marvel, uh, and basically it's like an autobiography. Him recording his memoirs of his life. So there's a little bit of his past life in there. Um, uh, so like I said, I kind of already gave it away, but he's going to die because it's called the death of Captain Marvel. Anyway, he has cancer. He was exposed to something in his past or in one of his past encounters with villains, and he was exposed to a chemical that slowly, over the years, caused cancer. Now, it does follow pretty much the quarter, one half, quarter pacing. I marked all these up here. Got a whole bunch of these post-it notes, so bear with me. Anyway, Act 1 ends on page 17. Like I said, it's a 62-page comic, so that's pretty close in there. And Act 2 begins on page 18, right here. Whoops, right here, backwards. So, anyway, now it does follow a pretty good story arc. It's got a solid story. The beginning, he's actually speaking into a microphone because he's doing a recording for all of his mainly for the Avengers. Um, like I said, basically he's recording his memoirs for future posterity. And he's doing that in the beginning, and then we find out why he's doing this recording. Then we learn he has cancer, and so the second part of the story goes into, there's not a whole lot of action in this. It's more of it's an emotional story, especially if you've had somebody who's gone through cancer or lost anybody through cancer. In fact, I'm dealing with my mom's cancer right now. Anyway, the second part of that is about them trying to pretty much see if they can come up with for a cure for a superhero who's dying of cancer. And then, all of his friends are coming to visit him on Titan, actually, inside of Titan, because Titan is actually a hollow moon of Saturn. So it does have a pretty solid story arc, and of course, in the end, it doesn't end abruptly with his death. It actually goes on into the afterlife. Like, I don't want to give too much more of it away because it really is actually pretty cool ending. So the character arcs, I would almost have to say that every single character had an arc, especially Captain Marvel, because he's the one who's having to deal with his own death. But even Spider-Man, Rick, who don't know if any of you are familiar with Captain Marvel, but he used to share I don't know how to interdimensional with this character Rick. Anyway, his love interest. All the other superheroes, they all pretty much have a character arc because they're having to come to terms with the death of one of the universe's greatest heroes. So I would almost dare say that just even the characters that didn't have any dialogue, just the expressions given to them throughout some of the artwork, you can tell that they're going through this stage. So there's definitely a change in all the characters from the beginning getting to the end, even the ones that don't have any dialogue. And the transitions, I would say they were pretty self-evident. Wasn't anything difficult. Pretty easy to figure out where you were in the story. I did have a little bit of trouble. I kind of had to go back and look and kind of figure out for sure where I thought the first act ended. Pretty sure I got that one right though. At least in my mind, where I imagine it would be. Like I said, it's 62 pages, and first act ended on page 17, so that's pretty close. Let's see. Yeah, the second act began on page 18, and the third act I would say began on page 47. That's when he actually goes into a coma, and from that point on, we get to see what the afterlife is going to be like, so to speak. Yeah, there are quite a few. Just about every single page acted like a mini comic, and I marked some of them here that I thought were pretty interesting and self-evident. Like this one. Yeah, let's see, kind of backwards. Anyway, this is in the very beginning. They're on this guy. This guy right here is Thanos. He's like Captain Marvel's arch nemesis. Anyway, they're there to get his stone body. He was turned to stone in the past during one of their confrontations, and so anyway, they're there to get his body to take it back to Titan. But they're about to be ambushed, and you can see up here, and then all the way kind of backwards, and down here on the bottom he's telling him that, beware, because his senses are telling him, his cosmic senses are telling him. There's a couple more I got in here that I thought were. Here's another example. The last. Where am I at? All right, there we go. Right there. This one right here. The very last panel on the bottom here. You can see Captain Marvel is looking to the right, and that's kind of sending you over to the next page. Like I said, there's quite a few of those in here, and now, like I said, each one was kind of like its own little mini comic, but just some examples that the panels wise, and the dialogue. Take that off there. With the panels and the dialogue, it was pretty simple flow. I mean, I didn't really have any trouble, following some of the comics we looked at in class. Stuff was jumbled up, and it was kind of hard to follow the story, even some of the dialogue and the word balloons and all that kind of stuff, dialogue balloons. But this one it's pretty straightforward all the way through. I'll just flip through it some. I mean, there's not a pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of jumbling around with the top to bottom, left to right, the normal thing. So it was pretty easy to read. 62 pages, and there's a lot of dialogue in there, but there's some other pretty cool things. We talked about splash pages in class, and there was actually quite a few, well, several splash pages. I wanted to show them to you. I wanted to show you this page because I thought it was pretty cool. This is where Captain Marvel is telling his girlfriend, Elysius, that he's dying. All right? Well, talk about it. And this page right here, there's not a bit of dialogue on there, but you see him approach her, and they're obviously talking. And then there at the bottom, they're embracing and she's hugging. I thought it was pretty cool that he told his lover that he was dying of cancer, but they were able to do it without one word on the page, and it was kind of touching. And our esteemed professor told me to get a box of tissue, and like I said, the kind of story it is, if you've experienced anybody with cancer, it's a pretty tough story actually to get through. Anyway, I wanted to show you some of these splash pages because I thought they were pretty cool, because just about every single one of them is like a montage of his other superhero friends and his villains. This one's of his villains. And here's another pretty cool one. This one's dedicated to Thanos. This one right here, his arch nemesis. That's a splash page with an inset up here of Thanos as he was alive, and the different schemes and that Captain America helped thwart against Thanos. There's another one in here that I liked a lot. Now this is another cool one that I thought, because it shows all of the superheroes, his superhero friends on this one, coming to visit him on his deathbed. Anyway, into Act 2. Didn't show you where Act 2 ended on page 46. And Act 3, I don't know if I went through that or not, but anyway, Act 3, yeah, I did say that, 47, that's when he goes into the coma. But, like I said, here's the back cover too. That's pretty awesome. They're looking at his grave. So anyway, it was really cool to go back and look at this, something that I hadn't read in let's see, I probably bought it in '85. So what was I? I was just a teenager back then. Like I said, I used to collect comic books. A lot of them got stolen when I moved. You can see actually my Indiana Jones Temple of Doom one sheet back there. But I hadn't read a comic book in years, and especially this one, I haven't read it in years, and it was really cool to go back and see that the artwork that I kind of grew up on. Um, so anyway, it's a pretty cool book. Like I said, there's not a lot of action in it, but it's a really cool story about dealing with life and death and dealing with a loved one. So hope you got through this. It was a little difficult for me, but like I said, it's a great book, a great graphic novel. I would recommend this to any of you who are interested in pursuing comics as a career. It will give you a really good idea about you know how comics were done back in the day. And it's kind of weird to say that back in the day because I don't feel almost 49. So anyway, thanks for watching, and see y'all in class.